Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So alhamdulillah, I'm so happy to be back with everyone again for our monthly webinar series. This one is called, as Sister Matter said, Sticks and Stones. So for those of you that may not be familiar with that reference, there's a little nursery rhyme that I grew up with called Sticks and Stones may break your bones, but words will never harm you. And this is what our parents always told us and our teachers whenever we were being bullied or whatever, to make us feel good. And, that little saying is partly true. It's not completely true because words do harm us, by the way, right? And what we've been talking about is how we say things, what we say when we say them, and particularly when we're talking to our loved ones. It's important. And they do matter and they can hurt and all of that stuff. So we want to talk about those kinds of things, strategies and techniques and principles that can help us to avoid, these sticks and stones, that actually do hurt. Some may not hurt, but many do hurt, So we want to focus on that in the overall series. But tonight we're talking about, this afternoon, we're talking about, mastering a particular technique that will help to minimize frustration and arguments about how we respond and when we respond. And this is really my favorite, to be honest with you. It is really my favorite topic, and particularly in terms of the technique. And it may be the shortest one of all. It won't take long to go through this at all, but the impact is powerful when you begin to implement it and apply it in your life. I've had people that have told me, they said, mashallah, this has really helped me. And it has personally helped me. Believe me, it has helped me because, I've been, sometimes I've been prone to want to, respond and get into these petty arguments. And how many times have you actually been in an argument with a loved one or anyone? And afterwards you said to yourself, why did I allow myself to do that? Or you ask yourself, or the person, why are we arguing about this? Because it's nothing. It doesn't really mean anything, but we allow ourselves to get it. We'll talk about the ways to how to avoid that. But before we get started, I want to go on a little rant. I hope you won't mind. So Sister Matter says, I've been based for over a year now in Cairo, Egypt, in mashallah, alhamdulillah. And it's been very nice. It's been very rewarding experience. Actually, I lived in the Middle East for the last prior to this stint in Egypt. I had been in the United Arab Emirates in the Dubai, Sharjah area for 15 years. Anyway, just some context there. But right now, actually, as we speak, I'm in North Carolina. I'm back in the U.S. Visiting with my family. So what I want to get to here is that I coming back and watching and just, being so exposed to television programming. So this is my rant. So bear with me. There is a commercial that drives me nuts, both me and my wife. And it has to do with relationships. And you all know what it is about a particular kind of program. The one that's called, what is it called? Wow, I'm about to forget. I'm glad I'm forgetting actually the name of it. Bachelor, The Bachelorette. And then they have this new one, I think, with older people. Actually, excuse me, I find it disgusting. I find it really repulsive, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I hope you do. I hope you find it really a little disgusting that people, will expose themselves in that way. What I mean is that you're going on, national and possibly international TV, doing this kind of a thing, kissing and hugging, and I don't know. It's just idiotic to me. It's just kind of insane. Most of you are probably much too young to remember, probably, the country singer. Her name is Tammy Wynette. All right. And back in the day, she had a song called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. I mean, if you have to go into a reality show to find love, I mean, that's sad, isn't it? Because you're not going to find real love on a TV reality show. Just like you're not going to find real love, in a bar. I shouldn't say this, but you maybe have a better chance in a bar. Please don't go to a bar. I'm not advocating going to bars. But at least that environment, well, that's a terrible environment. So that's not even a good analogy. Anyway, but on TV, because something is kind of wrong with that. Why do I want to expose myself like that? But more importantly is, why do we want to watch it? And I hope you don't watch it. I've never watched a full program at all, ever. Even the times that I, was here in the US for an extended period of time, never watched a full series and a full show. Why? Because I realize that watching such things are going to impact my thinking about relationships. And so for our brothers, if you're watching that show and you see this, tall, blonde, black, brown, whatever she is, with a long skirt on, because this is how they promote it. I don't see these things, with a long gown on, but it's split up to her thigh. I'm just telling you what's happening, and if this is sort of like, ooh, then when you approach trying to get into a serious relationship, is, in your subconscious, you're going to like, well, is she like that? Is she like that? Or for the man, for the bachelor, these guys that come on and they pull off their shirts and they got a six-pack, I'm not saying anything is wrong with having a six-pack, you're in shape if that's, but hey, if you're a woman, you're like, oh, okay, that's my guy, with the strong shoulders and the six. Yeah, but what's in between his ears? Now, some might watch this video and they might say, oh, well, brother, you just hating on it, brother, because, he's got a six-pack and you don't. Yeah, I got a six-pack of juice in my refrigerator, But are you getting my point? So this is the point. The whole point is be aware of what we allow to enter into our minds, and more important, into our subconscious. We may think, well, this is just mindless entertainment. We may think that, but believe me, if you're sitting there and if you're getting some enjoyment out of it, if you're getting some pleasure out of it, believe me, it is impacting the way that you think about, male and female relationships. So, all right. So that's enough of my rant. All right. So here, what we want to say, what you see on this screen now, I like this little saying. It's just something for us to think about. All right. We won't dwell on it. But it says, engage your brain before putting your mouth in gear. All right. Come on. This is mainly basically think before you speak. So it's just a cute little expression just to help us to formulate, because that's what this webinar is about. It's about engaging the brain before we putting our mouth, in the gear slot, before we start talking. And of course, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in such a magnificent way that we can do all of these things that we're going to be talking about, and these things will happen in milliseconds. Because as we talk and we're thinking about what we're going to say next, it happens in milliseconds. Alhamdulillah, this is one of the wonders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's just keep this little saying. It's a nice little phrase, particularly sometimes I say this, particularly working with little children, engage your brain. What is it that you want to say? But engage your brain. If you're going to say something, don't say something not so smart. Engage your brain before you, put your mouth in gear. They kind of find that a little cute. All right, we can go to the next slide. Anyway, so we said that this particular webinar is using the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how to minimize and to master the fusion of arguments and frustration for yourself, maybe and the other person, and arguments with someone else. All right. So first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to gauge the level of the statement of the question that is coming to you. You understand? So you're talking to someone. So let's picture this. You're having a conversation with someone. Or you may not even be having a conversation. Or maybe someone just says something, because this is what oftentimes happens, many times happens. Someone just says something that, may irritate you or maybe strike something in you, And when you respond, and there you go. As they say, then the fight was on. So you have to gauge the level of the statement or the question. In other words, so the first thing is, you know, you know, you gauge it from two different points. Well, first of all, we're going to gauge it from the way it's coming to you, because when we do the scale, now we're going to have to gauge your own emotions. So you're going to have to gauge what's being said to you. So is the person that's saying it to you, is it coming from a place of irritation? Are they irritated about something? Maybe they're irritated with you. Or maybe they're irritated about something else. You got to figure that out quickly. When that milliseconds there. Are you irritated with me? Are you irritated about something else? And if you want to, you can ask them that. Are you irritated with me? And we'll get with that about how you can respond to that. All right. But first, you're going to gauge that, how you have to gauge that. The second thing is this person just slightly annoyed? It's just some annoyance. If something has annoyed that particular person, okay, because that's going to impact how, if at all, you respond to them. Or maybe there's some confusion. What the person is saying clearly indicates there is some confusion. The person is confused about something. You want to have that clearly fixed, because again, if a person is confused, I have to respond in a way to try to clear up confusion, not to add to more confusion. We'll talk about that more. And also anger. Is the person angry with me or about something? So all of this is happening in an instant or within seconds. And it's okay that if it takes seconds, you don't have to make these decisions instantly. Don't think, oh, I can't make these decisions, No, because people, unfortunately, most of us think that we have to respond to someone immediately. We do not. And we'll show that on the next slide, I believe. We won't do that. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Let's really get into this. Like I said, this is going to be short, but boy, it can be very, very powerful. All right. So where is it on the scale? It's a scale of 1 to 10. All right. So this is something that, I didn't get this from anywhere. Alhamdulillah, this kind of came to my mind because as I was trying to develop my own sense of awareness in terms of my communication style and in my communication with my loved ones. All right. And that, how can I avoid, having silly arguments? Because sometimes I realized, I have to be honest with myself, that I was responding in ways that was unnecessary, first of all, just simply unnecessary. So here's how I had to do it. So you have to say to yourself, somebody says something to you. So you're going to get an emotion. Immediately, you're going to feel an emotion. Again, remember, they're coming to you with an emotion. So you're going to feel an emotion. If they're coming to you with some irritation, you may feel irritated. If they're coming to you with some anger, you may feel some anger, or you're going to feel some emotion. You have to decide on a scale of 1 to 10, where is this? So I say, if it's a 1 to 5, if you say, you know what, that's a 1 to 5. Now, again, I'm not talking about you're in all the time that you're in, this has to do with you're in conversation with someone. It can be when you're in conversation with someone, and it can be when you're not in conversation, if somebody just said something. And because see, sometimes people say things, I say things, we all say things. We just say things that sometimes we might think, that doesn't make sense. We think that's what we think. And we might think, what, that doesn't make sense. And we might say to that person, that doesn't make sense. But the reality might be is that something we need to say it doesn't make sense about? Because what's going to happen when you say to someone, that doesn't make sense, because basically what you're saying is you're not making sense. So how is that person going to come back? I am making sense. And here we go. All right. And it could be, I'll give you an example. I was working with a client, with a couple. SubhanAllah. So the husband, had a cup that was given to him, a coffee cup, a mug that was given to him by his job. All right. He liked the cup. She, one day, accidentally broke the cup. Happens all the time. I break cups, glasses, dishes. Ask my wife; she'll tell you I break a lot. We are risk for one another, for the glass makers, for the dish makers. Anyway, so she broke the cup. He came home, realized that the cup had been broken, and he went crazy. He actually went crazy. So when she tried to ask him, it came from my job. And this, okay, it's a cup. All right. But he went off over a cup. So she realized in the course of our, counseling and coaching, she realized that, and for him, of course, that was no reason to go off about a cup. But he had not gotten that. But I taught her that this scale. And in subsequent sessions, she said, that helped me a lot because they were often in arguments. They were arguing all the time. Even during our session, there were these arguments, But she learned how to gauge things. So if it's a 1 to 5, you have to decide, is this a 1 to 5? How, where is this on the scale of importance of my needing to respond? This is what we're talking about. If it's a 1 to 5, no need to respond. It's just no need. Just be quiet. Unless then the person asks you to actually respond. If the person asks you to respond, okay, give a response. But no need to just blurt out something. If it's a 1 to 5, it's a 1 to 5. Yeah. Even though it might be something that irritate you, that somebody just said something. Because we get that way sometimes. All right. 6 to 8. If it's 6 to 8, then it's likely something that needs a response, but you should delay that response. Delay it to a time when you can think about what was said, think about what you need to say, and when the best time to say it. So it's a delay. So you said, this looks like a 7 here. All this is happening in seconds. So so now you're saying you're still not responding. So these two categories, you're not responding. But on the second category, 68, you realize I'm going to need to address this situation. I need to say something about this, but maybe not now. Maybe I need to delay. And it might be 10 minutes later. It might be 15 minutes later. But it's not going to be immediate. This is the issue. The problem where we get into is when we when we don't engage our brain before putting our mouth in gear. All right. So let's say then something is said to you and you decide, you calculate, and this is a 9 or 10 here. Now you realize I need to say something. So now you need to say something, but it needs to be measured. It needs to be a measured but immediate response, in a question form, ideally. So now this means measured. So what this means now is I need to respond to this, now, but I'm going to measure what I say, and I'm probably, if it's possible, depending upon, the question or the statement that's said, put it in the question form. Like, for instance, sweetheart, let me make sure I understand what you just said here. Or did you mean to say such and such and such and such? Did you mean to say that if I don't buy you that new dress, you're going to throw all of my clothes out? Did you mean to say that? Did you mean to say that? I just want to be clear. Is that what you really meant to say? So, better to reframe it like that. And we're going to have a whole session about reframing. But at any rate, about, respond. Yes, respond, because it may necessitate that. But do it in a way, again, that is measured. You're going to speak slow. You're going to take a deep breath. This is what I recommend. Take a deep breath. Say to yourself, maybe Bismillah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. And then begin to respond. You might say something, well, or I understand how you feel. There's a great formula for maybe overcoming objections, or the way to respond to someone that you're that there's a disagreement with. And it's called the feel, felt, found method. I don't know if we ever talked about this before. But they say, okay, I understand how you feel. If that's true, don't say I understand. But you could, or if you don't understand it, you could say, I'm sure there are some people that understand how you feel. And if it's true, you can say, I felt that way before, or I'm sure many people have felt that way before. But, when we thought about it, when we analyzed it, when we did our research, we found something else to be true, or we found another perspective about that. It's called feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. Felt that way before. But here's what I found. And again, everything has to be true, of course. So if you're going to say, I understand how you feel, you truly have to have some understanding of how that person feels. Otherwise, you have to, again, reframe that. I felt the same way. Again, if that's not true, I'm sure other people have felt the way you're feeling. Again, because you want to be truthful. We're Muslims, we have to be truthful. But here's what we found, or here's what was found. When we looked at it, when we did the research, when we, whatever, here was the feedback upon that. Here was the perspective upon that. So this is simple, but it's powerful. And I'm telling you, if you utilize this on a scale of 1 to 10, the next time that someone says something to you, look, your emotions. When something kind of grabs you, that. So when the next time that happens, I want you to say to yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, just say 1 to 10. And then you have to say, okay, it's the 2 or 3. If it's a 3, and subhanAllah, I guess because of my own experiences with this, because you don't want to be frustrated. You don't want to frustrate yourself. And you don't want to have needless and senseless arguments. We're going to have arguments with our loved ones. We cannot avoid that. We're human beings. We're Bani Adam. We're going to have arguments. But what we don't want is that we do not want to have senseless and futile arguments. No need for that. Okay? No need for that. All right? So again, we'll just wrap up here. So 1 to 5, no need to respond. If it's a 1 to 5, no need to respond. It's a 68, delay the response till whatever time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 days, whatever you think it might be appropriate to do at the point. If it's a 9 to 10, if it's something, you say, well, I need to address this now. It should be measured. Speak slowly. Let me first thing is take a deep breath. Say Bismillah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Because again, you don't want your anger, so you don't want shaitan getting involved here. Say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah. You can say that to yourself out loud, however you want to do that. Seek refuge, with Allah from the shaitan, but it needs a response. So you just say, I need to respond. Say, and maybe you can say, dear, I need to respond to that. Will you allow me to respond to that? Yeah. See, when you ask, here's the thing about asking questions. It allows time for everybody to calm down a little bit, to lower the temperature. When you immediately go out and bang with the response, hey, I'm banging back. That's normally what happens, right? You hit me, I hit you. Boom, boom, boom. And here, not literally. We don't do this literally. But you know what I mean? Metaphorically, figuratively, we do this. We hit and we hit back, and in terms of our comments, and come on, and things just get worse and potentially get worse and worse until after a while we just, it's just like, and I know you feel bad. I've been in those situations. It's like, man, that was not good. And Allah forbid, the worst thing, what we're trying to avoid, is you saying things out of your mouth. You're saying things out of your mouth that you're going to regret. You say hurtful things that you can't take back, because once it's out, once those words are out, believe me, you cannot pull them back. Saying I'm sorry is good. Apologizing is great. All of that is good. Seeking refuge in Allah from shaitan. It's, asking Allah to forgive you, asking them. All of that is good. But you said it. It's done. Inshallah, it can be repaired. Inshallah. But we want to minimize it, because the more that happens, the less likely then repair can take place. You follow me? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is the last point, but I want you to remember that, okay? Just remember this scale. It's really simple, but it's very, very powerful. All right. So here's a rule here. There is no rule that says that you have to respond to every comment. I mean, I think some of us think that we just have to talk. We have to say something to everybody at any time. And no, you don't. You don't have to. There's no rule. No rule anywhere that says you have to respond to something, to everything that everybody says to you. Sometimes you just say anything. I suppose somebody says, so you're not going to say anything? You can see I've been married a long time, right? And I'm not talking about just from the wife's standpoint, from the spousal standpoint, but also from with the children, you know? So the person might say, so you're not going to say anything? You're not going to respond? Well, I'm giving some thought to it. I'd like to think about that. I'd like to think about that. Maybe you can clarify something. So I'm not sure if I understand exactly where we're going here, what's our objective here. You don't have to respond. You can not respond. Okay. Sometimes when I'm in conversation like that with someone, I might say, interesting perspective. And that's it. Or sometimes I just say nothing at all. I mean, absolutely nothing. Just absolutely nothing. And you know what happens oftentimes when you do that? What happens with the other person? They move on. they just move on with another thought, another conversation. They just move on because maybe they realize I shouldn't have said that either. That was dumb. I don't like using words like dumb and stupid, but sometimes because I've said that to myself, that was dumb. I really didn't. And I have said dumb things. I mean, really kind of like dumb things. And I'm like, that wasn't smart. That was really dumb. And I'm so happy that my wife didn't respond. You know what I mean? Because she could have said that was dumb. And I would not have liked that. And then you call it, I don't think I would have gone down that road, but some people say, are you calling me dumb? You know what I mean? And as we say, and then the fight started. And then it was on. And then the fight was on. We want to avoid all of that. We want to have harmonious relationships. We want to have compassionate relationships. But we're human. And we just have to learn these techniques. We have to learn things that will help us to be able to achieve, the maximum in our relationships, inshallah, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to practice discipline of the tongue. This is very important because we talked about I think in the very first webinar about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he was saying to Mu'adh, I think it was to Mu'adh in a long hadith, and the Prophet held his own tongue, and he said, be control of this, get control of this, because you'll be held accountable for it. And the companions wanted to know, will we be held accountable for this, for what we say? He said, yes. And we don't want to describe how many people will be dragged into the hellfire based upon the things that they have said. SubhanAllah. Now, hopefully, inshallah, we won't get that far. And we're trying to avoid that. So we're trying to minimize that. We don't want to avoid being dragged into the hellfire by all means, at any cost. You understand? So, but we have to understand the importance, and this is what the Prophet was teaching us, is that the importance of the use of the tongue, and how we should use it in such a way that elevates and that builds rather than destroys and rather than tearing down, but that it is important. And this is what the Prophet said, hold it. So we have to discipline our tongues and we have to practice self-restraint. So I hope that I know this, and I know it may seem so simple, and it may be so simplified. And you say, oh, is that it? Just what it is? I promise you. I hope you will do it, and I hope you'll give us some feedback. Really, you may have an opportunity before the day is over, likely, and if that happens, give some feedback to say, well, I don't know what you're going to say, but I'd like to know, is it valuable? I found it valuable for me in my life and my relationships, and others who have used it. I found it valuable for them in their life and in their relationships as well. Jazakallah khair. Anything that we said of good, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any errors and mistakes have been from me, from myself alone. So alhamdulillah, if you have any questions or any comments, you're free to share them. And I'll turn it over now to Umar. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.